Hey y'all, it's Dr. Dime, and I'm back today with another video. Today I'm going to be sharing how I personally got into medical school. If you're in the thick of application season, you're feeling a little burnt out, you're feeling a little depressed, and you're wondering if there is hope for you, then you have come to the right video. By no means was I the perfect applicant, because honestly, there is no perfect applicant, but I was myself through and through, and it got me where I am today. So, I just want to share a few tips and hopefully inspire somebody along the way. I don't want to keep you too long because I know you're busy. So, without further ado, let's begin. Get over here. Let's dance.
Look. Let's dance. Let's dance. One look and I breathe.
First, let's get into a little bit of my background. So, I was born in New Orleans, raised in Houston. I am a first generation college student, first generation medical student, and first generation doctor, meaning I was the first person in my immediate family to do all of those things. My other family members have gone on to do great things, but I was the first one to want to be a doctor. So, in elementary school and also in middle school, I took my education very seriously because I always knew that I wanted to do something special. At first, I wanted to be a doctor, a writer, a lawyer, a singer, and an actress all at once. But as Hurricane Katrina came, and then we had the volunteers that were just willing to help us, it really planted a seed in me to want to help others as well. Now, in middle school, I realized that I love learning about the human body. I would win awards like the Science Student of the Year award, and I thought doctor had a nice ring to it. In high school, I was really on fire. I took every class very seriously because, as we know, now is the time when colleges are going to start looking at you. And I knew that. And my whole thing was I wanted to pay academically for college because I knew that I would need a scholarship in order to fulfill my dreams. So every class, I definitely was on it. I studied a lot. I didn't really go out to parties. I didn't have a super duper big social life because my academics was my priority.
You got to get on your Zoom. Every morning you got to get on your Zoom at 10.
Now, I did join other things that were not related to medicine or anything like that. I was in the International Business Academy because I really liked that. I was into arts and acting, even though I never joined like the official drama club or anything. I was into those type of things in my community, such as like in my church. So I would do plays, and so I had a bit of extracurriculars outside of school, but again, medicine and just focusing on really being a doctor and doing the best I could was at the forefront. So in high school, I hardly made any B's. I think I made like one or two throughout my whole 4 years there. And so I graduated at the top of my class. I did graduate, I believe it was magna cum laude, and I was number 19 out of 831 students. That is not to brag, but I'm just saying, when I said I put in work, I mean, I put in some work. I put in time, honey. I put in the effort. I was there every day doing what I needed to do. And it showed.
You got to get on your Zoom. Every morning you got to get on your Zoom at 10.
So when it was time to finally choose a college, I knew that I wanted to stay within the Texas region because, quite frankly, I just wasn't ready to leave home yet. So that did limit me. I probably could have went somewhere like Harvard or Yale or all those other Ivy League schools, but I was really focused on Houston. So I was interested in University of Houston. I was interested in Rice. I was interested in a lot of just Texas schools, UT, Baylor, schools like that. Well, the school that I wound up going to, because they did give me a full scholarship, was Houston Baptist University, which is now Houston Christian University. And when I got to HBU, I still call it HBU because that was the name when I went there. When I got to HBU for the first time in my life, I was very challenged academically. I remember being in our biology course and I was so lost, y'all. I think the first test I got like a C, and I was like, I can't. I just can't. I can't do it. Somebody call the cops. Call the cops. It's a crime being committed. No, it wasn't a crime being committed. I just didn't know what I was doing. I went to tutoring because I was very, very just. I knew that, okay, I got this. If I just put forward some effort, if I can just figure this thing out, I can make it through college. So I went to tutoring. I found a friend, Parnia, who helped me. I was able to pick up on some ways that she studied. She would help me. I wound up passing that class with an A. And at that point, I got some motivation because I was like, yeah, I can do this. College definitely had its shares of ups and downs because even though that was my first experience with a class, it wasn't my last experience like that with a class. Meaning, there were times in college when I would be up, then times when I would be down, and times when I'd be up and down. And it was just this constant cycle of having to learn how to learn over and over and over and over and over again. But the good part about that is that at the end, I could really see my growth. I could see just how much everything was paying off when I saw those improvements in my academia. In my sophomore year of college, I joined a program which shall remain nameless. But if you're from Texas, then you definitely know what program I'm talking about. But it was essentially a program that allowed me to get automatic admission into medical school. So I qualified for the program, I interviewed, I got into the program. Life was sweet. I was like, oh yeah, I know I'm going to be a doctor no matter what now. And it did wind up working out for me. The time frame in which they wanted us to do things such as take the MCAT, etc., it really threw me for a loop. I wasn't ready. I took the MCAT. I did not make the score that I was required to make with that program, and I wound up having to retake my MCAT and just go through a lot of extra stuff that I wouldn't have if I hadn't been in the program. In no way am I not grateful for the program because I was able to get some friends from there. I had a chance to shadow different doctors in different specialties, and they gave us money and all kind of things. So it was definitely helpful. But I think it was just for a season for me. It wasn't a program that I was meant to stay in. So when I was dismissed from the program, I was very sad. I pretty much was depressed, went into like a depression about it because it is sad. You're like, well, I had this in my hands and I let it slip away. But in the long run, I realized that it just wasn't for me and that's okay. It served its purpose in my life and I was able to move on afterwards. So I knew that that wasn't going to be an avenue for me anymore. But let's talk about the things that I did well that wound up helping me get into medical school. Number one was my academics. My GPA was pretty solid. I believe it was around like a 3.6 or 3.6 something. And that's pretty solid for med school at the time that I applied. So with that GPA, I was pretty much set. I did win other awards as well, such as the Commuter Assistant Award, because I was a commuter assistant for all 4 years of college, and that was a way that I made some money throughout college through work study. I also won the President's Award, which is like the highest award you can win at an institution. And it just acknowledges excellence all over, all around. It's like when you are a very well rounded student. That's the best way I can put that award. I participated in organizations. I was in the student programming board. I was not only in it, but I was an executive board member of it. And I was in charge of coming up with ideas for programming and different things that we could do on campus to build spirit and camaraderie. And so that was also something that I did. I was in TRIO, which is an educational talent search program. I was an ambassador of TRIO, so I got a job doing that. I had a lot of jobs in college, actually. A lot of jobs. Your girl was struggling. I was struggling because even though I had a full tuition scholarship, I still had to survive. So I needed gas, I needed food, things like that. So I had to work. Clock that too. Clocked.
Yes, I did that. And you would do it too for a check. I was an employee. And I was going to get employee of the month. And that's on period.
I was in a lot of other organizations and things as well. I was very busy on campus, and it definitely gave me something to talk about in my personal statement and in my medical school application overall. When it came to clinical experience, that program I mentioned definitely helped me with that as well, because those internships that I had over the summer all counted as clinical experience. I was in hospitals shadowing trauma surgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, etc. So that was really good in exposure. I also wound up shadowing a cardiologist on my own. I would do a lot of EKGs and interpret labs and anything that she needed, really. I was just like an extra helping hand. I shadowed a family practitioner. Well, it was a family nurse practitioner. At the time, I really didn't know what the difference was between nurse practitioners and doctors, honestly, but it was a really nice experience. I was able to shadow and get some hours in there as well. Clinical exposure is going to be so important because not only does it give you things to talk about in your application, but it also helps you to know, okay, this is something I can see myself doing, and this is something I can't see myself doing. I just can't. As far as volunteer work goes, I was very involved with the American Red Cross. Any opportunity that we had in order to volunteer and give back to the community, I did that. I was at food banks, I was organizing things for medical missions and things like that as well. So I definitely had a lot of volunteer experience under my belt too, which is important. It's an important section because it shows how interactive you are with the community. And not only is it an important section to fill out for like your medical school applications, it's also just important as a human being to give back to other human beings in need whenever you can. And that was a seed that was planted in my heart at a very young age. I will always be a volunteerer. I don't know what the word volunteerer. I will always volunteer. How about that? So after graduation, I decided to really just focus on the MCAT, give this thing another go without the program that I was involved in previously. So I worked at a summer camp as a nursing assistant over the summer, and I would also study during my downtime as the nursing assistant. I used Jack Weston for cars, and I used the AAMC for everything else. I did all of my practice questions directly with the AAMC. I did not get any QBank like UWorld or Kaplan. Why? Well, because the people that make the test are the people that are involved with like the AAMC. I believe it's the AAMC, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's whoever distributed the test. They provide practice questions. I did those a lot. And then I would also do practice tests. I think the practice tests I did were Kaplan, I believe. But everything else was just from the AAMC. And I did qualify for I believe it's the FAP, the assistance program. Maybe it's federal assistant program or something. I will look up the name and insert that somewhere, but I qualified for that. So that really helped me out with study materials and being able to afford everything that I needed in order to really prepare for this exam. So I prepared all summer, and then I took my test sometime in either September or October. I can't remember the exact date. It was so long ago, but either September or October, which is late. And if you listen to my previous video, I did say I do not recommend doing that. I recommend taking your test as soon as you can, but for me, that just did not work out that way. But I took my test and then I applied to medical school. So let's talk about the actual application process, because I did have all of my application filled out prior to me taking the MCAT. It's just that MCAT score that they were waiting on, because you can submit your application and I think there's a button on there where you pick, okay, I haven't taken my test yet. So they have everything else, but they just don't have your scores yet. So that's what I opted to do. So for my personal statement, I wrote about my story. I wrote about everything that I've been through. I wrote about being kicked out of that program. I wrote about the resilience it took for me to get back up. I just poured it all out onto the paper. I'm not the type of person that likes to stick with a generic blase. I like to show who I really am, and I like to just keep it all the way real, because at the end of the day, if somebody tells you they are perfect, they are lying. I have yet to meet a perfect person, and I've met a lot of people.
You ate that.
I pre-wrote a lot of my secondaries. If I knew that there were things that they might be inclined to ask, then I wrote that in advance. That way I wouldn't have to spend a whole lot of time writing it at a coffee shop on a random Sunday, because now I'm rushing and scurrying. No, I was already late enough with my MCAT. So I wasn't going to be late with everything. You got to pick a struggle. For letters of rec, I asked people that I knew would take time and give me a good letter of rec. You don't want just any old letter of rec. You don't want a generic, this is Sally Sue. She is applying to medical school. Ma'am or sir, erase that and trash it. I asked people who knew me and who could speak to who I was as a person, as a student, as an overcomer. It's not about sounding perfect. It's about sounding real. Make them understand who you are. So that way, even through reading your story, they feel like, wow, I know her a little bit. I know him a little bit. They should have a really good idea of who you are by the time they're done reading that personal statement. So I want you to actually read it and think, if I didn't know me, how would I feel about me? That should tell you how they would feel about you. So what helped me stand out in this whole application process and everything? Well, I feel like what helped me stand out is that I was just authentically myself. So many times people try to be other people. They try to be what they think is wanted. But the only person you can really be is you. If you have shortcomings, say that. Be honest and transparent about it. I don't think it was one specific thing that got me in. I think it was the alignment of things that got me into medical school. So I wound up getting a total of 3 interviews, which I do think if I had applied earlier, I probably would have gotten more. But I was grateful for what I had. And I did get accepted into the school that I really wanted to go to. And I wound up getting a full ride to medical school. Based on everything that I have been through, based on being removed from that program, having self-doubt, being the first person to do it, this trial, that trial, this, that. In the end, it all worked out for me. And that's how I know it can work out for you too, because I've lived it. My story made sense. It wasn't perfect. I wasn't trying to sound perfect. I wasn't trying to be perfect. My experiences showed consistency. And my passion was clear. I didn't try to be somebody that I wasn't. I didn't try to write about what I thought they wanted to hear. I talked about being underrepresented, being from a community where I didn't see anybody that looked like me, being first gen, still wanting to do this, still having that passion to treat everybody and provide compassionate care. I showed them how my unique experiences would contribute to the way that I connect and I understand my patients in ways that can help me bridge those gaps in healthcare that are called inequities. Long story short, people can tell when you're authentic, and that's what makes you unforgettable. So if you're applying in 2025, here's what you need. You need to be prepared. You don't need to be perfect. Your lived experience matters. And don't count yourself out before you even apply. If you're watching this, you're already ahead of the game. So do me a favor and keep going. All right, y'all. That's going to be it for this one. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give me a like. Just one thumbs up because it's free. Comment, subscribe, and press the bell notification so you can get notified when I release my next video. Well, till later, I guess I will see y'all on the flip side. Bye.